So once again, good morning. Welcome. It's great to see all of you back here on campus. It's been a quiet first couple of weeks of January here at A&M Commerce, and it's always great to see the activity resume here as we get underway for what is sure to be a very busy spring semester. Let me start out by introducing a very special guest, the First Lady of Texas A&M University Commerce, the lovely Jelena Jones, who's joining us here today. Jelena needs to be here so she can give me kind of a moment-by-moment critique of the presentation as soon as we're done, so much appreciated. Well, I hope everyone had a wonderful few weeks off over Christmas and New Year's and had the time to rest and relax and perhaps reflect a little bit about all the great things that are going on both in our lives and in our collective life as a university. The Jones family had a wonderful time. We were able to reconnect with family. We got in a little bit of R&R. We managed a trip to Houston, where Aislinn and I took in a Texans game at Reliant Stadium. This is not Jerry World where we're at. This is Reliant Stadium. We actually saw the Texans, unlike the Cowboys, win the very last game of their season, even though their season ended a little bit sooner than the Cowboys did, but still, they closed out with a W. We also spent a very pleasant weekend in Fort Worth helping to celebrate the wedding of two members of the Lyon family, Taylor Four and the former Jenna DeLong. A lot of you know Taylor. He played football for the Lions, graduated, came back, got his MBA, and then became a development director for working for Mr. Van Dieven, detailed to the athletic department. And Jenna was an assistant softball coach briefly until she met Taylor. And so once again, that was a match, I don't know if it was made in heaven, but it was made here on the campus of Texas A&M University Commerce, which is about as close to heaven as anyone needs to get. So we went to Fort Worth and helped them celebrate. We also were able to spend a very pleasant afternoon at the Fort Worth Stockyards. We were getting in touch with our region's Western heritage. As you can see here, our 17-year-old daughter, Aislinn, got a little more closely in touch with the Western heritage than the rest of us did. But now notice she's smiling in this picture, which indicates we didn't make her sit on that thing, okay? She asked to have this photo taken. Well, I'm sure that a lot of you, in fact, I know that a lot of you had more far-flung adventures than we did, and I hope you had a wonderful time and bring back wonderful memories. We didn't get far from home, but we got far enough to enjoy coming back to Commerce, where it's always a beautiful day or a beautiful evening. And it was such a delight to enjoy some beautiful winter evenings sitting on the back porch and watching the moon rise over the pasture east of the president's home. Well, we've got a lot of things to do this morning. I've got some information to share with you, so let's get underway. First of all, we begin with a hearty welcome to all of our new faculty and staff, and as has become true in the last several years, we have far too many people to introduce them here individually this morning, or that would be all we do this morning, but we're so glad to have each and every one of you here as part of our Lyon family, so a hearty welcome. We will have a complete listing on the website along with the entire presentation, both the PowerPoint and the text of the presentation. I do want to publicly introduce, though, a new member of the leadership team, and that is Mr. Jacques Fuqua, who I have not yet met personally. Is Mr. Fuqua here? Could stand and be recognized. Yeah, here he is in the back. Mr. Fuqua is our new Executive Director of Global Programs, and I know personally that he helped welcome over 200 international students to campus yesterday, so he's already been busy. He comes to us from Auburn University, Montgomery. And as you know, with our QEP, with its focus on preparing students for an interconnected world, well into the implementation phase, as well as an ever-expanding portfolio of international activities, Mr. Fuqua will be busy, and we're looking to him for vision and leadership in helping the continuing process of globalizing our university. Those of you who are at the November University Community Update will recall that I announced a new benefit for all vacation-eligible employees, and that is a day off during your birthday month. Now, I'm gratified to know that many of you are listening, because as soon as we got back in the office, we started getting calls about when does this start. So it starts now, all right? The approved procedure is now up on the website. You can click on it and learn. It's a brief procedure. It's not hard to follow. So check out the guidelines, and to everybody who has a birthday this year, and that's pretty much all of us, okay? Happy birthday. I am also very pleased to announce that plans are in the works for the formation of a staff council, long overdue here at Texas A&M University Commerce. I want to give special thanks to the 2014 leadership cohort for spearheading this project. They came up with a very thoughtful plan and timeline for implementation, which they presented to the President's Advisory Council earlier this week, which we enthusiastically approved. We will be hearing more about this very important new initiative in the near future as the plans continue to develop. I think most of you also know the good news. I'm going to announce it one more time because the news is so good, that we received at the SACS COC conference in December, and that is that our reaffirmation of accreditation, which touched virtually every aspect of the university and involved the efforts of every single member of the university community, was successful, unconditionally successful. Congratulations to all of you. You all are the ones who made this happen. You know, once you step outside the walls of academia, it's a little bit hard to explain to our colleagues in the civilian world both how important this is and how difficult it is to maintain accreditation. It sounds like just, you know, like getting your health certificate or something. But we know that it means a lot more than just running the checklist. It means that, as judged by our professional peers from throughout the southern region, that we are in full compliance with 97 very exacting requirements and standards. And I don't need to go into detail because you all know how exacting those requirements are. This means that there can be no question as to the unassailable quality of our institution and all that we do. Well, as I've told you before, and as I've often, it's not an original thought with me, accreditation is a journey and not a destination. We now have a very strong infrastructure in place for maintaining our compliance with SACS standards, particularly in the area of institutional effectiveness. It is certainly a time to celebrate. It is not, however, a time to relax. I have no doubt that the commitment that secured our unconditional reaffirmation will continue to strengthen our university, so that when this happens again 10 years from now, and some of us will be here, we're not going to identify who today, but it won't be a white-knuckle experience. The groundwork will be laid, and it will simply be a matter of running reports. I'm also very pleased to report that the College of Business received news late in the fall that its accreditation by AACSB, the Association to Advance Collegiate Schools of Business, had been reaffirmed, maintaining a distinction that was first achieved in 1975. I think most of you know AACSB is the gold standard of quality in business education, with fewer than 5% of business schools worldwide earning this recognition. So congratulations to Dean Steve Williams and the entire faculty and staff of the College of Business for this great achievement. Kudos also go to the nursing program. Our young nursing program, it's only barely a year old at this point. It also reached a very important milestone late in the fall by receiving national accreditation by the Commission on Collegiate Nursing Education. There is no higher standard of quality in nursing education, and fewer than half of the nursing programs nationwide can lay claim to this distinction. Our nursing program, as I said, barely a year old, now enrolls 80 students, yet we have more than 1,200 students who have declared themselves as aspiring nursing majors. So they hope to get into this program. Clearly, there is pent-up demand, and clearly this is an area where the excellence which the faculty and leadership of the School of Nursing have demonstrated will provide a solid foundation for continued robust and sustained growth. Also, just yesterday we received the news that Mr. Luis Franco, Director of Hispanic Outreach and Student Programs, has been selected as the first recipient of the Distinguished University Staff Award by the Texas Association of Chicanos in Higher Education, known as TACHE. Mr. Franco will be formally recognized next month at the TACHE conference. Is Luis with us here today, or is he out helping students? Luis, stand up. Congratulations, and thank you for your excellent work with our students. You're making a difference. I'd now like to ask Dr. Mary Hendricks, Vice President for Student Access and Success, to come to the stage, who will update us on our current enrollment numbers for the spring. Dr. Hendricks.
Thank you, President Jones, and good morning, everyone. As of Tuesday of this week, this is where we stand with our enrollment. Keep in mind, yesterday we had undergraduate orientation as well as our international student orientation, so those numbers are going to increase, thank goodness. You'll see here that our undergraduate semester credit hours is down just a little less than 1%, but our graduate semester credit hours are up 2.75%, which is very important during this period because it is our base period. You'll notice too that our head count overall, we were at 10,863 on Tuesday, and this of course represents just below 1%. The other slides break it down for you by credit hours by college. You'll notice that the College of Business is down approximately 10%, but what did happen is the BAAS program moved to the College of Science and Engineering, so that's actually a shift. You'll also notice that the College of Humanities, Social Sciences, and Arts is down approximately 2%. And then the College of Science and Engineering, which is so important during this period because it's a high weight discipline, is up 3.71%. College of Education is up 2.01%. You may see a shift, those of you who receive the enrollment reports. We receive a spring enrollment report, and then we have a flex entry winter mini, which is very odd for us, and that is because of the TAB program. So you'll see the increase in credit hours at the undergraduate level for the College of Education. And then new for us is the credit hours for the School of Agriculture, and you'll see there that they are up 2,000. So that's where we stand. Of course, at this time, now that the sun's out, we're hoping that students will get out of their homes, come back and register, but we need all of you to make that happen. So once again, thank you for all you do.
Well, thank you, Dr. Hendricks, and let me echo her gratitude as well. Thank you for helping our students succeed. Our commitment is to find a seat for every qualified student who needs to pursue the life-transforming opportunity that only higher education can provide. I'd now like to call upon Dr. Adolfo Benavides, Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, who will provide an update from the Division of Academic Affairs.
Gracias, Presidente Jones. My dear faculty and staff colleagues, good morning. What a pleasure it is to see you coming back for one more semester, for one more year. Thank you. Since time is of essence, I'd like to begin with the presentation of some restructuring that we did in the Division of Academic Affairs in some academic units. First, in the College of Business, as mentioned by Dr. Hendricks, we transferred the BAAS program to the College of Science and Engineering. We also phased out the Department of Business Administration and Management Information Systems. And as part of this restructuring of the College of Business academic units, we also phased out the Department of Marketing and Management and created two new separate departments in that college: the Department of Marketing and Business Analytics and the Department of Management. In the College of Humanities, Social Sciences and Arts, we phased out the Department of Mass Media, Communications and Theater, created a separate standalone Department of Theater, and transferred Mass Media and Communications into the Department of Literature and Languages. International student enrollment. This is a success story. We have 468 returning international students. At yesterday's International Student Orientation, we had, and this is an update from what's on the slide, actually 227 new international students. By the time they register in the next couple of days, for this spring we will have very close to 700 international students representing approximately 50 countries. The main countries represented in our international student body are India, South Korea, Nepal, China, Nigeria, and Saudi Arabia. By the way, we will also have, by the time all the international students register, close to over 1,000 new graduate students. Incidentally, the conversion rate of registered new graduate students to initial applicants is going to surpass 40%. It's phenomenal. I thank each and every one of you who worked very diligently to make this happen. And as President Jones mentioned, not a time to relax, but a time to continue to make sure that every single qualified graduate student finds a place in one class or several classes. As we began several semesters ago, I'd like to report the percentage of classes, online classes, that will be ready by the start of the term. The goal is 100%, because there's no margin for error here. This past fall, 98% of some 497 fully online classes were ready by the start of the fall semester. In the Winter Mini that just ended a few days ago, we offered 29 classes in 51 different sections, and by the start of that Winter Mini, each and every one of those online sections was ready to go. Just with a few days before classes begin next Tuesday, 98% of 561 online classes are ready to go. By next Tuesday, again, the goal is 100%. Thank you, both the staff at the Center for Faculty Excellence and Innovation, and also the faculty and staff and department heads in the different academic units for making this happen. An additional update is on the accessibility requirements in online classes. Here's the latest interpretation. And by the way, we're leading the way on this throughout the A&M system. The interpretation is that, according to the Americans with Disabilities Act, institutions must provide reasonable accommodations for students with documented disabilities taking online classes. More specifically, these students must have access to course materials at the very same time that other students in that class will have access to course content. We didn't wait until classes started to find out what we needed to do. We identified 20 fully online classes in which there was at least one student with documented disabilities. By the time classes begin next Tuesday, all 20 such courses will be fully accessible to students with documented disabilities. Thank you, the staff at the Center for Faculty Excellence and Innovation, for getting this done. Last but not least, one of the core missions of that center is to support faculty development, particularly in the area of scholarly productivity and creative activities. Mark your calendars, folks. The last couple of weeks prior to spring break, beginning in late February, specifically on February 25th, there will be 3 events to support faculty engagement in its scholarly activities. On the 25th of February, there will be a panel discussion led by Professors Chuck Araizi from the College of Business, Dr. Salvatore Attardo from the College of Humanities, Social Sciences, and Arts, Dr. Venu Cheriyath from the College of Science and Engineering, and Dr. John Travis from the College of Education and Human Services on a panel discussion on the issue of faculty engagement in research leading to publications. By the way, dear faculty in the fine arts, we are not ignoring you. We realize that in the fine arts, there are creative activities that are peer-reviewed and not necessarily that lead to publications. Creative activities such as performances or exhibits. Later we will have a panel discussion that will provide support for faculty in the fine arts. Have a great rest of the day, a wonderful semester, and a great year. Thank you so much for what you do day in and day out. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Benavides. A lot of great things going on in academic affairs. I'd like to give you a quick update on strategic planning. We're well into this process at this point in the year. The entire effort continues on time and under budget. That is, if it actually had a budget, which it doesn't, but we do buy lunch for the committee members every once in a while. The information gathering phase of the process was completed in the fall. The next step will be a series of open forums in February to solicit input on a draft plan. These will be followed with the posting of an interactive website that will allow for additional feedback throughout the spring semester. The committee will incorporate all of that into the final draft, which will hit my desk on May the 4th. I want to thank everyone who has either participated in a forum, answered the survey, or done any of the number of things that the committee has come up with to make sure that this plan is broad-based and inclusive. Please stay engaged throughout the spring. We're entering into the final phase of the process this spring, and obviously we want this to culminate in a very thorough, thoughtful, yet visionary strategic plan for the next 5 years. I do want to give a special thanks to Dean John Colfus and Dr. Darrell Harp, who are co-chairing the strategic planning team. I also need to update you on the current status of the system-wide administrative review that was initiated last year, which has now entered a new phase. You will recall that the goal of this review, which is being conducted by the accounting firm of PricewaterhouseCoopers, is to identify administrative costs that may be redirected to the university's core mission of teaching, research, and service. Let me emphasize, this is not a budget-cutting maneuver. That is not its intent. The intent is to identify administrative costs and functions which may be performed more efficiently and more effectively, generating savings which then will be redirected toward our core mission. The review of all system members based in Brazos County, and of course this includes Texas A&M University as well as all of the agencies and A&M Galveston, was completed last summer. Implementation of the flagship and also all the Brazos County-based agencies is now underway. Our university, along with the 9 other regional universities in the A&M system, comprise phase 2 of this study. We received the draft report for Texas A&M University Commerce shortly before the holidays, and we have analyzed it. We have responded back to the system with some questions and concerns about various very detailed aspects of the report. They will consider those responses, finalize their report, and present what we believe will be the final draft to the Board of Regents at the February meeting. Assuming that the board approves the report at that time, I will immediately appoint a university-wide team to guide us through the process of implementation. Obviously, we don't have all of the information at this point, but in about a month after the Board of Regents meet, I'll be able to come back to you at our first university community update of the spring, and I believe provide a comprehensive report on what's been accomplished and then where we head from here. Excuse me. The members of the Budget Review and Development Council were appointed this week with a charge that differs from previous years. This spring, I am asking the council to examine the university's overall financial profile, focusing specifically on our effectiveness in maximizing formula funding for our academic programs. So I think everyone here knows formula-based funding is our financial lifeblood as a regional university, and we need to ensure that the good work all of us are doing in each of our programs is generating the maximum funding possible. My hope is that based on this analysis, we will have a better understanding of not only how we may increase enrollment, but also how we may increase funding as well. While we have grown in thoughtful and creative ways over the past few years, this piece of the puzzle, which is essentially a financial strategic plan for the university, has been missing. This is a big job, but it's an important one if we are to compete effectively for scarce state resources in the marketplace of public higher education in Texas. And as a side note, I want to thank all of the department heads, the deans, the people in the Vice President for Business Administration's office, the Provost's office, for all the work that they have done in getting up to speed just on how this very complex process works. It is complicated, but it does have a direct bearing on our financial future as an institution. What we want to do is take all of that information, reflect on it, and then chart a very clear course for the future, which will provide a strong foundation, both academically and financially, for our university for many years to come. This spring, we are expanding our efforts in the area of diversity and inclusion under the leadership of Chief Diversity Officer Dr. Edward Romero. Dr. Romero has done much good work for us in a variety of roles since joining the university several years ago. This spring, he is focusing specifically on the core mission of the Office of Diversity, and that is to create a university community that not only reflects the diversity of the many constituents whom we serve, but which also promotes tolerance and inclusion, all toward the goal of helping our students better succeed. 3 important pillars of the process will be put in place this spring. First of all, Dr. Romero will appoint a standing university committee on diversity and inclusion. There will be an application process. We want to make sure that the members of this committee are truly committed to the process and the goal of diversifying our institution. Secondly, we will conduct a university climate assessment. We've identified an expert. We're in negotiations with her firm to help us just get a better sense of where we are, do some benchmarking with regard to diversity at our institution. And finally, the development and publication of a diversity and inclusion strategic plan. I'm very excited about these initiatives. We've done a lot in the area of diversity, but I really feel like we're really focusing and targeting our efforts this spring to make some real progress. It all depends on you, though. Your participation in this, as in so many other areas, is critical to the future of our university if we are to achieve the goal of making this university a community that values the dignity and contributions of all of its members. If you happen to be in downtown Dallas on February 6th, some of you may be, please drop by 1901 Pacific Avenue, which is the location of our new, greatly expanded, much more visible, and I might add, much more beautiful University Center at Dallas teaching site. This new location takes our UCD program to a higher level and opens up tremendous opportunities for expanding our presence in downtown Dallas. And as you see, we're actually going to have a sign on the building, okay? You're driving west on Elm Street and you get behind the bus. First of all, you're going to see our name on the back of the bus, and if you're still at the stoplight, you can't help but see the name of our university on the side of the building. So downtown Dallas is an incredibly important market for us. We've been there for 20 years. And this is really kind of a qualitative leap into a new dimension for us. I think most of you know that last fall the student body voted to more than double the recreation center fee from $65 a semester to $150 a semester. This is quite a leap. Interestingly, the election produced a record turnout, 2,050 students, and the margin of victory was just short of 3-1. So this one was not conducted in the dead of night with under cover of darkness with a few athletes turning out to vote. This was truly a widespread effort, although the athletes did turn out to vote. The additional fee will help to fund major improvements to the Morris Rec Center over a period of years, especially over the next 4 years, including the addition of an outdoor multi-activity court. Now, you don't find these on too many university campuses, although you might find them in communities like as part of a Parks and Rec offering. This is, as it says, a multi-activity court. You can play all kinds of sports here. It will be outdoors. It will have I've forgotten what they call it, a cushioned surface. It won't just be a concrete slab. And it really will be a new dimension for the RSC. Importantly, though, this new fee will allow the MRC to turn back $100,000 in student service fees back to the Student Service Fee Allocation Task Force. So this is money that will go back, be plowed back into, reinvested into other important student activities. Okay, quick facilities update. Roads are almost done. We'll skip that. We get closer all the time. We have made some meaningful improvements to athletics facilities. Nothing, though, is more striking than the softball stadium. And again, if you haven't been by it lately, take a drive by. Almost complete. February 1st is the first softball game. I was going to say rain or shine, but that's not really true in softball. Let's just say weather permitting. Sunday afternoon, do try to come out and cheer the Lady Lions softball team on. They are so excited, and this field is unique. It is striking. And for those of you, if you haven't been by there, but you've been part of the university for a while, it's where Hubble Hall used to be, okay? When they started doing the site work, they found out there was little pieces of Hubble Hall that the crew had left behind, but those are all gone now. In the ag department, we have some work planned for the horse barn this spring. Again, part of gearing up for our equine science program, as well as the overall upgrade of our ag program. A variety of other upgrades and improvements. Lee Street, which has already been finished once, although not well, will be remilled and repaved. after the close of the spring semester. Okay, we had a rather blunt conversation with the contractors, and they agreed to come back and redo that street. It shouldn't take as long as it did the first time, but I'm not making any promises. Okay, additional parking, obviously we're always working on that. Renovation of the Heritage Garden fountain. If you ever walk through the Heritage Garden, the fountain really is one of the more beautiful aspects of that very beautiful and attractive setting, although it's getting a little tired. We're also making improvements to the second floor of G Library to make it safer and more attractive for late night use. Athletics Department recently opened its new Academic Support Center, which our AD, Ryan Ivey, tells me, and I believe him completely, is the best academic support center in all of Division II. It will be called the James Thrower Academic Center following board approval in February at the board meeting. Our fall sports had great seasons. Lions women's soccer played deep into the playoffs after winning the conference championship and reaching the Sweet 16 nationwide for the first time in many years. So congratulations go out to Coach Neil Piper and all of the Lady Lions. Football capped off a championship season with an exciting 72-21 win over East Central Oklahoma at the Heart of Texas Bowl in Copperas Cove. This year marks the first back-to-back bowl appearances for Lions football since the 1957-58 Tangerine Bowl games. Lions football also holds season records for most points scored in a season and highest average score per game. Two players, Vernon Johnson and Joe Bergeron, will represent A&M Commerce on the American team this Saturday at the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl in Los Angeles. Well, it's important to note that not only do Lions win, they graduate. 12 student athletes cross the stage at the December commencement ceremony. Advancement Division has been busy and has been producing results. This spring, they have a number of 125th anniversary themed events, including alumni receptions across the state, and as well as the highly successful Alumni Ambassador Forum, which will take place on February 26th. And I am sure that all of the departments are engaging with Advancement to plan for that event. This is a tremendously popular program, not only to honor the alumni, but the students get so much out of it as well. Best of all, Advancement is on track to raise more than, where's Mr. Van Dieven? $1 million this year, buddy, okay? Scholarship support. Right, scholarship awards, $1 million. We're gonna crack the ceiling, right? So, you heard it here. Hold them to it. No, they're doing a great job in Advancement. We have so many successful alumni who want to help, and it's reaching them and re-engaging them with the university is what it takes. Bridge Builders campaign is underway. This gives members of the university community the opportunity to support the great work that all of us do. And make a special note, every department which reaches 100% participation will receive an ice cream social from Advancement. So, and speaking of sweet, take a look at this. Here is the photo from the dedication of the Mary Bonham Equine Pavilion, honoring one of our university's most loyal and generous supporters, Miss Mary Bonham of Sulphur Springs. She has become a true friend to this university, and not only with her resources, but with the story of her life. So we are so grateful to have engaged her in the life of our university community. Tomorrow, work begins on a major exterior campus art project by Patrick Darty, an internationally recognized sculptor who crafts his unique works out of locally available natural materials. The installation will take place on the south lawn of the library and will offer tremendous opportunities for participation by students as well as members of the community. Be sure to stop by throughout the spring. It's going to be hard not to stop by if you're just walking by the walking mall out here and check out the progress on the work. This is going to be a stunning new addition to campus. Well, as you know, the 84th Texas Legislature convened on Tuesday in Austin. While it is often said that the current legislative session will be the most difficult in history, it is always true. We can expect no less of this session. I won't offer my thoughts on the interesting political dimensions of our current session, not today and not at a public microphone in any event. But if you want to, I'll be at Luigi's a little after 5 if you want to meet and talk. Let me instead focus on the higher things, and that is both the agenda for both higher education in general, and for Texas A&M Commerce in particular. Governor-elect Abbott has made both K-12 and higher education top priorities. He really has done this, folks. I know that sounds a little, cynical on my part, but he really has. And he has committed to increased state support in both areas. As we all know, with increased support comes increased expectations for performance and accountability. As you can see, higher education will be competing with other important statewide priorities. We hope to see, all of higher ed hopes to see some relief from the Hazelwood exemption. You all know, I believe most of you know what this is. This is an incredibly generous benefit for veterans and their dependents. It is one which costs A&M Commerce a great deal. We will forego approximately $3 million in tuition and fee revenue this year, and our projections show that figure going up almost exponentially far into the future. We always are in favor of increases to financial aid to students, and in particular, we favor higher levels of funding for the formulas. We also, again, we're not alone here, are strongly urging the legislature to consider some form of funding for capital projects. I've told you this before, the last time that TRBs, tuition revenue bonds, this is the way that capital projects at universities get paid for. The last time those were issued by the state of Texas was in 2006. That was the third special session of the 79th legislature, 9 years ago. So there has been a tremendous amount of what is being called, a term of art, deferred investment in higher education. So obviously we are not alone in this, but it is a tremendous need. We're also paying close attention to proposed legislation that would allow certain community colleges baccalaureate degree granting authority. And nothing more to say on that at the moment other than that we're going to be tracking it to see where it goes. Okay, A&M Commerce, let's zoom in on our own university. We're asking for 2 new buildings, a nursing and health sciences building and a library and center for educational innovation and faculty development. We are also seeking 4 exceptional items. These are projects or initiatives that are funded outside of the regular formula funding matrix. Each one of these requests aligns closely with our strengths and aspirations as a university, and that's an important point. This isn't new crazy stuff. This is stuff we're already doing, but we want to do bigger, more, and better. If funded, each one of these projects will help this university grow and serve more students in ways that benefit both them and the entire state of Texas. And again, I won't take time to go over these in detail. You see them listed here. We will post some additional materials on the website. A great deal of thought went into the development of these requests, and many of you were involved in providing the information to substantiate those items. A few upcoming dates. I've already mentioned the first softball game. A number of us will be going to Austin along with other county leaders to participate in Hunt County Days at the state capitol. The main event preview day, March the 7th, so please be sure to set aside time that morning and really throughout the day to meet prospective students and their families. It means so much when these young men and women and their parents come to campus for them to sit down and talk with faculty members and hear face-to-face, one-on-one, what our programs actually consist of and how good they are. Professional Development Day, March 26th, and finally, a university convocation honoring Dr. Ben Zhang as Regents Professor of Chemistry this spring. We don't have the date fixed yet, but as soon as we do, we will announce it. Well, that closes the news report. Before we return to the very important business of getting the spring semester underway, I hope you'll allow me a few minutes, I'll try to make it as few as possible, to reflect with you on where we stand as a university and what lies ahead. Let me set the tone for these remarks by saying that for the first time in a number of years, I believe that we are more fully in control of our destiny as a university than we have been in quite some time. Let me explain why I feel this way. Beginning in about 2009, and throughout the ensuing years of the long, painful, and protracted economic recession, higher education was a favorite punching bag for those who saw waste and inefficiency behind every door and window of government. Most of our game plan during these difficult years focused on defense. We were in stop-loss mode, trying to hold on to what we had, and frankly, we were not all successful. Not all successful, nor always successful. While the external economic and political environments are still very dynamic, very much in flux, I sense a subtle but I think significant shift. First, and don't get me wrong, this is not a sea change I'm talking about, okay? This is not a revolutionary new way of thinking. We still do have our critics, but I think the terms of the debate are starting to shift. The calls for higher education to achieve greater efficiency and effectiveness while reducing costs to students, families, and taxpayers continue unabated. That has not changed, okay? And we have to listen to those criticisms very carefully, and we have to respond creatively and substantially. However, the grim, existential questioning that we faced during the darkest days of the recession, and you remember this, pointed probing into whether a college degree was worth the time, trouble, and most of all, the expense. This has receded slightly, but I believe meaningfully and noticeably. You remember a couple of years ago, I held up copies of Time and Newsweek with covers that said, "Is college a lousy investment? And can colleges be saved?" We're not seeing that stuff anymore. Now, again, this is not a revolution. The student debt crisis is still very much a topic of conversation. The high unemployment rate of recent college graduates, you know, like English majors, you know, like I used to be. The perception that much university research is costly and irrelevant. We still hear all of this stuff. You hear it, okay? You hear it, you read it in the newspaper, you hear it in the community, and you hear it from opinion leaders. But the conversation is slowly shifting. I think a favorite question among opinion leaders these days is not, are America's colleges even worth saving, but how can they be made better? I think there is a growing appreciation of the fact that this nation's system of higher education is one of its most valuable assets and an essential element of its future growth and prosperity. Furthermore, I think there is a realization that our system of higher education requires continued investment, continued maintenance, if it is to grow and place our nation in a prominent place on the world stage, which is where we deserve to be. Well, again, tough questions, sure, but I think we can answer those questions. At A&M Commerce, we are efficient, we are effective, and we are affordable. A great example is our Texas Affordable Baccalaureate degree, still the only competency-based degree program to be offered by a public university in the state of Texas. Dr. Hendricks tells me we have close to 80 students enrolled in that now. Yet as important as this innovation is to the students who are benefiting from it, it is but one of 144 degree programs that we offer, and it is not our primary order of business. It is important, but it does not constitute the bulk of what we do. What about the rest of the university? How are we, as an academic community, answering the call to be the very best that our students and society at large need for us to be? Well, we don't want to fall into familiar traps of assuming that our critics simply that just don't understand how good we are. You know, we're bad about that. Our proclamations of quality focus on those things that we think are most virtuous and important. But we must offer more than an elegant restatement of our self-defined and self-proclaimed points of pride. The challenges we face as an institution are not the ones that we faced 25 or even 5 years ago. Our responses must be relevant, timely, and most importantly, they must be anchored firmly in the present. There's no going back to the good old days in higher education. To flourish as a university, we have to be at the top of our game. We have to be the very best at what we do, and we have to make sure that everyone knows it, that they understand it, and that they support it. How do you do that? Well, let me answer that question with a response which sounds so vague that on first blush it sounds meaningless because it's so overused. But it all has to do with a shared vision for excellence. Let me unpack that a little bit. What does it mean for a university to be excellent? And I'm sorry, I did this synonym search and everything for excellence. There are just not that many useful synonyms, okay? I know it's overused, but it's all we got, so we're going to have to put up with it. Well, we know what excellence is, okay? We certainly know what it is in our professional lives, our singular professional lives, whether academic or administrative. We have well-developed criteria that we call upon to make informed judgments about the quality of our work. In academic research, for instance, the value, the excellence of a scholarly article is determined by consent, by common agreement, by the standing of the journal in which it is published. In teaching, as we have learned, the quality of student learning outcomes is an important measure of excellence. And after our recent SACS experience, I think we all have a broader and deeper understanding of what student learning outcomes are and how you measure them. On the administrative side of the house, we have parallel definitions, agreements, consensus-based understandings of excellence. Maybe it's getting a clean audit. Maybe it's response time. Maybe it's customer service. Any number of things. It's too numerous to elaborate in detail, but each of you knows what I'm talking about. So excellence, that overburdened word, is not ineffable. We know it when we see it, and we have a pretty good idea of how to measure it. So if we know what excellence means in our individual professional lives, what does it mean collectively for the university as a whole? What is an excellent university? How do we measure that? How do we describe it? How do we cultivate that culture of excellence so that it becomes so compelling as to command assent and support well beyond the boundaries of our campus? I always try not to refer to Professor Mayo, but I always do. So we're going to start with a little exercise in fearless investigation, okay? In this case, we're talking about fearless self-examination. I don't mean we need to reinvent our university. I long ago grew tired of being told that higher education needs to be reinvented. No, it needs to be improved. It does not need to be torn down and rebuilt. But if we are to understand what makes us great, let's take a look at what has made us great at this point in our evolution, in our 125th year. To do that, we need to be able to talk in clear, concrete terms about the enlivening spirit of our institution. We need to know and agree upon the nature of that spirit, and we need to call upon that. We need to use that spirit as our North Star in making informed decisions. And I'm not going to call them mundane decisions because they're important, but they are daily, quotidian decisions when it comes down to allocating resources. Resources are always scarce. How do you spend them most wisely? Where do you go where they will be most effectively used to carry out the mission of our university? How do we use that enlivening spirit to capture the essence of our university when we tell our story to prospective students, to prospective student families, to elected officials and other leaders? Well, there's no simple or brief answer, and that's a good thing, because any university that can sum up what makes it excellence in a slogan or a catchphrase is not much of a university, okay? It is simply a marketing, it's a brand, all right? It's a marketing tool. But I want to drill down a little more deeply. That doesn't mean that the notion of excellence is elusive, because I believe that it's there, we can articulate it, we can define it, we can make it real. Well, let me, as a starting point, let me take another brief diversion here. I think a lot of you know how much I love the history of this institution and discovering new things about its past. So I want to read you something that I found in our archives. This is a letter dated July 10th, 1923. It was written by Edward Ray, who was head of the Department of English and also the Dean of Men. It was written to a Mr. H.R. March of Quinlan. Mr. March had written the college president, inquiring about the welfare of his son, young Jesse, who was a student at East Texas State Teachers College. Barb McCord shared this letter, by the way, about a year ago with me, and it's, I'm grateful to her for doing that, and the letter now lives in our archives. And this is an image of it. You don't have to read it. I'm going to read it to you, okay? So don't worry about that. My dear sir, your letter of July 9th, addressed to the president of the East Texas State Teachers College, has been referred to me for consideration. I have just had a talk with Jesse March, your son. I might say that the conversation was quite satisfactory. The young fellow seems to be a straightforward, frank sort of boy who desires to do the right thing, a boy who can be trusted. You asked me to tell you something about necessary expenses. Just at present, Jesse needs a pair of tennis shoes because physical education is required of all students doing work in college. The use of the gymnasium in physical education requires that each student wear tennis shoes to prevent his destroying the floor of the gymnasium. Still true. It will therefore be necessary that Jesse buy a pair of tennis shoes. Then, too, it is quite desirable that you purchase for him, or permit him to purchase himself, a good fountain pen. I do not know what he will have to pay for one, probably anything from $2 to $3. His tennis shoes will cost him something like $1.50. Well, there you go, inflation. I questioned Jesse pretty closely relative to his weekly expenses, and he tells me that you furnish him something like $2 per week. This may seem, of course, a great deal, but there are so many demands on the young fellow here, as well as in any other institution of learning, that he will not have at home. I do not believe he is trying to be extravagant. I have advised him to call occasionally at my office and talk with me about his work. If anything develops in the future that I feel needs your attention, I shall be prompt to notify you. Very truly yours, E. H. Ray, Dean of Men. Well, that's just a little window into the life of a student and a faculty member and an administrator in 1923 at East Texas State Teachers College. And please understand that I'm not reading this letter as a way of suggesting that you all go out and email parents about the personal aspects of your students' lives, okay? What in 1923 was an act of courtesy would today be a FERPA violation, okay? So we're not going to be doing that, okay? That's not the point here. However, I think the letter offers some insight into one of this university's most important hallmarks of excellence, as true today as it was in 1923. Dean Ray was not simply responding to a parent's inquiry. A lot of you have been called upon to do that. It's not always pleasant. Rather, he was paying close attention to his students' needs. Jesse was not in trouble. His financial aid had not run out. He was not on academic probation. He was simply any one of a number of students who was working hard to earn his degree and needed a little help. Dean Ray says that he questioned Jesse pretty closely, not about what his problems were, but about what he needed. At the moment, these needs consisted of a pair of tennis shoes, a fountain pen, and maybe another $1 a week. The altogether unremarkable tone of the letter suggests to me that these kinds of conversations were routine for Dean Ray, that he probably made it his habit to ask students what they needed, to listen carefully to their responses, and then to advise them accordingly. Well, the point of this is that I'd like to suggest Dean Ray's simple courtesy to his student and his father provides the groundwork for a definition of institutional excellence for this university, Texas A&M University Commerce. A university that listens carefully to its students, seriously considers their inquiries and suggestions, and responds proactively and positively will set itself apart from and above its peers, and I think in very, very important ways. We need not call in and closely question every student to do this. In fact, we already have a great deal of information about our students. Largely as a result of our recent SACS reaffirmation efforts, we now have robust institutional effective capabilities. Every faculty member, every semester, and in every section gathers information from students about the quality of their academic experience. Furthermore, our institutional effectiveness efforts extend well beyond the classroom. As everyone in this room is keenly aware, every administrative unit on campus now regularly and routinely gathers information from its constituents about the quality and effectiveness of its services and operations, and uses this information in an organized and intentional process of continuous improvement. Our successful reaffirmation of accreditation proves that we can satisfy accepted standards of quality and compliance. Let's now focus on exceeding those expectations by using what we have learned to make Texas A&M University Commerce a truly exceptional institution, an institution that is distinguished in many important ways, but none more important than the high esteem that we hold for our students. So, if Jesse March needed a pair of tennis shoes, a fountain pen, and an extra buck, what do our students need? I wish that was all that they needed, but it's more than that. And of course, given the sweeping diversity of our student body, there's no simple answer to that question. I'd like to turn to our most recent 2014 graduation exit survey report for some clues. First of all, let me thank the faculty members who put this report together. Dr. Stephen Reisen, who was the lead researcher and author, Dr. Shonda Gibson, and Dr. Lavelle Hendricks. And I don't know how many of you have seen this, but we'll certainly make a copy of it available to you. It's very, very interesting. And there's a lot of good news in it. Overall, our graduates are pretty well satisfied with their time at our university. We receive consistently high marks, 6 or higher, on a 7-point Likert scale for the quality of our academic programs. And in spite of a few unhappy campers, the great majority of our graduates feel pretty good about their time here. A high percentage say that they have spoken positively about A&M Commerce to others. So in academics, as well as a number of other areas I won't go into in detail, our graduates provide reassuring validation of the high quality of our university's academic programs. As part of the survey, students were also invited to provide open-ended comments about the university. And faculty members, you know, this is always the fun part when you read what students actually are thinking about and not just filling in bubbles. And that's the most interesting part of this survey as well, because we get, I think, some very keen insights into what's going on in their lives. One need that was consistently expressed across graduates of all colleges, and this is important, this is one that we have heard and we are already responding to, is the need for greater consistency and less uncertainty, particularly when it comes to class scheduling and advising. A few comments. I would recommend streamlining the course schedule. Another one, stop making classes only available in one semester. I had to wait a year to graduate just for one class. It was horrible, and I hated that. I hated it's all capital. My thanks go to the provosts, the deans, and the department heads who have implemented structural reforms to this class schedule particularly this spring. I know that we talked in very detailed and blunt terms about this in the fall, made some real changes, offering sections across all available times and in predictable rotations, whether in commerce, in remote sites, or online. This is what our students have been asking for. This is what we need to keep doing. Advising, again, a couple of comments. Better communication with students, regular contact from advisors. Advisors need to spend more time with you when you call and visit the office. Again, these are not angry students. They're just saying, you know, we need a little more in the way of advising. And again, we've heard them. We have responded. We have dedicated additional resources to advising. We're getting there, but we still have some work to do. Graduates also cite the need for better web-based resources. They want to be able to click and see their whole degree plan, see the rotation of classes semester to semester. Again, not a new topic to us. This is stuff we're working on. Not easy, it takes time, but I applaud you for the progress that you're making in that area. The overall message is that in their estimation, college is already complicated. Let's not make it even harder for them to navigate the process. Another broad theme emerged, which I didn't really anticipate and was enlightening for me. And it's one where I think we can make a real difference. And that is students' desire to have more meaningful engagements with their university. You know, we talk about this as kind of a retention effort. We can engage them, they're more likely to succeed, which is true. Turns out they actually want this, okay? They want to be part of the university community. These are some comments. And by the way, these are not all from students who actually either live on campus or even go to school primarily in commerce. A couple of these are from students at off-campus sites. I think there should be more social events on campus for students. The spirit is getting better. Another one, promote student involvement. I'm excerpting from longer comments. I would have liked to have seen opportunities to attend more clubs or organizations related to the degree plans. And this was from a student who was actually at one of the remote sites. And this one, particularly emphatic, a lot of exclamation points. Promote the school, instill university pride. Okay, well, these are our students, you know. This is not just what we're telling them they should be feeling, this is what they want to feel. I think we need to be both heartened and also challenged by these observations. Our students want, in fact, it goes beyond wanting, they need to have tangible reasons to feel proud of their university, whether they lived on campus, whether they commuted to Commerce, whether they took their classes at a remote site, or whether they attended either partially or entirely online. They all want and they all need to feel proud of the choice that they made to earn a degree from this. This will always be their university. We know that many of our students lead complex lives. We know they have little opportunity for outside of classroom activities. Yet even these individuals say they want to feel more connected. They need to know that everyone at the university has their best interest in mind. Not surprisingly, the most pointed complaints expressed in the survey had to do with poor service and rude treatment. But, and this is the important, as Pee Wee Herman said, this is a big but, okay? The most fervent praise that was expressed in the survey was for those professors, those advisors, and those staff members who went out of their way to ensure that a particular student's concerns were heard and addressed quickly and effectively. Students notice when we do that, and they praise us for that on their way out the door. Well, unbeknownst to Dean Ray, his conversation with young Jesse March was more than a passing act of courtesy. He was helping to define our unique character as a university. Every interaction with a student is an opportunity for each of us to show how special this university truly is. One of the greatest rewards I have known as a faculty member comes from having made a positive and profound difference in the lives of students through my words and deeds. I am blessed beyond measure, as I believe all of us are, to have been given the opportunity to serve a university whose mission is nothing less than the unlocking of human potential through education. Our students from all walks of life come to our university yearning for the life-transforming gift of learning. Let us give that gift freely, holding them always in the highest esteem for the choice they have made. They have, after all, placed in our hands the most sacred trust of all, that of realizing the promise of their future. The next few months will be momentous for our university and busy for those of us who are closely involved in advocating for its future. I'd like to thank you personally for all that you do every day for this university and the students whom we serve. You breathe life into our mission. Your good work and the incredible results you achieve provide irrefutable evidence of the innate worth of this institution and of its unique and irreplaceable character. Let us seize these hallmarks of excellence and proclaim them proudly and loudly to our critics and supporters alike. This region, this state, this world are all better because Texas A&M University Commerce serves its students so well. I'm put in mind of that marvelous poem by Robert Browning, Rabbi Ben Ezra, which begins with this couplet, "Grow old along with me, the best is yet to be." Now, I don't actually like the first line all that much, so we're going to drop that one, okay? So let's focus on the best is yet to be. I genuinely believe that the best years of this university are yet to be. Together, we can transform tantalizing opportunity into remarkable reality. Once again, thank you for everything you do to make this a special place, and I wish all of you the very best spring semester ever.